वेरी गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। मैं हूं प्रेरणा वासवानी, फाउंडर ऑफ प्रेरणा स्प्रेडिंग इंस्पिरेशन। So before starting today's topic, I would like to say that some conversations inform us while others inspire us to create change. So today's conversation is about creating that change. So welcome to another episode of Prerna Spreading Inspiration, where every story has the power to transform lives and every conversation has the potential to inspire action. So today's topic is like it will affect every family, every workplace, every community, and every nation. So topic name is From Silence to Strength, Reimagining Gender Justice. So gender justice is not about the women's rights. It's about creating a society where every individual is respected, every voice is heard, every opportunity is equal, and dignity is non-negotiable. It's about challenging stereotypes, breaking invisible barriers, encouraging equal representation, and creating a future where equality is not merely promised but practiced. And I couldn't think of a better person to lead this conversation. So today we are having a very distinguished guest, special guest, Miss Anushri Dash, and I would like to introduce her. So Anushri ma'am is gender equality advocate, human rights activist, TEDx speaker, social entrepreneur, founder and chairperson of Adiba She Vision and G100 country chair equity and equality. She is widely recognized as Fat Woman of Odisha for her pioneering work in menstrual health, women leadership, and gender justice. So a very warm welcome to you on our podcast platform and इतना इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक पे हम बात करने वाले हैं सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस।
Thank you, Prerna. Thank you for such a lovely introduction. And I am actually excited about this meaningful conversation which we are going to have. And let's have this unapologetic conversation. Let's get started with that because I'm really excited.
Same here, ma'am. And it's really truly honor that you have joined us and you will be providing us wonderful insights on this topic. So I want to understand that you have left behind your corporate career to work at the grassroots level. So what inspired you to choose this path of purpose and how has this journey shaped your understanding of gender justice?
Um, People often ask me if I ever regret leaving a comfortable corporate career. And my answer is always the same. I never regretted choosing purpose over comfort. The corporate world, I had around 12 plus years of corporate experience with me. The corporate world taught me professionalism, discipline, leadership, and I'm genuinely grateful for that chapter because it shaped who I am. But deep inside, I always felt that my work had to mean something beyond targets, presentation, and quarterly results. And the turning point was not a single moment, it was series of encounters. During my corporate career as well, I used to get involved in a lot of activities, CSR activity, grassroots activities. I met girls who missed school every month simply because they didn't have access to sanitary products. Then I met women who had accepted discrimination as their destiny because no one had ever told them that they deserved better. I met mothers who sacrificed everything for their families, yet never considered their own dreams important enough to pursue. And those stories actually stayed with me. I realized that privilege comes with responsibility. If I had the education, the platform, and of course the ability to speak, then remaining silent was not an option for me. That's why I started working at the grassroots. And honestly, walking with the communities have completely changed how I understand gender justice. Earlier, I thought that gender justice was about equal rights, but today I believe that it's about equal value. It's about ensuring that homemakers' unpaid work is respected. It's about young girl believing her education matters as much as her brothers. It's about teaching boys that strength includes empathy, respect, and shared responsibility. It's also about creating a system where opportunities are based on potential, not gender. Through my grassroots organization, Adiva Shri Vision, I have had a privilege of working alongside thousands of women and young people. And every community I visit teaches me something new. I don't go there believing that I have all the answers. I go there to listen first, because sustainable change, that's what my belief is, that sustainable change begins with listening before leading. If my journey from corporate to grassroots has taught me anything, is that uh, gender justice is not a women's issue. It's actually a societal issue. And when women are denied dignity, the society loses talent. That's why, despite all the challenges, I know I chose the right path, because purpose does not change the lives of people you serve. It transforms you as a person. And that has been the greatest reward of my journey, from corporate to working with the community, for the women, with the women.
That's really wonderful, ma'am. And what an inspiring beginning, I can say. And your journey that beautifully reminds us that true leadership is not measured by the position, but the lives we impact. That is the main thing I can say. And बहुत ही अच्छा लगा कि and yes, I really like that word Adiba, she vision. So आप कुछ बताना चाहेंगे how did you make that word means कैसे आपने नाम दिया उसको?
Um, I always believe कि if you're starting something, you should give your heart and soul to that particular thing. And when I thought of naming my non-profit organization, though before that also I was part of couple of other initiative, couple of other campaigns, but when I thought
Can
different
you
kind
hear
of
us?
energy, that there
Sorry,
should
your
be a
voice.
different kind of, am I audible?
Now you're audible.
Yeah, so I thought when I'm hearing this word Adiva, there should be a different kind of energy flowing through me. So that's why I have taken the initial of my family. That's the name of me, my father, and my mother. And we have named is Adiva. Uh, A comes from Anushri, BI comes from Bharti, that's my mom, and BHA, and DI comes from Dilip, that's my father. So that's how Adiva came. And since it's an initiative for the women, our tagline is also she for she. So that's why, and we are carrying a vision for a gender just society, for a equal society. So that's why she vision came into picture, and we named it very beautifully, wrapped it with love and care, and we named it Adiva She Vision.
Wonderful. That's so much thoughtful that you have given your name along with your parents' name with this NGO. तो बहुत ही collective energy रहती है and really you have made it with heart and soul, I can say. And I have seen your videos and photos. You are doing such a great work at ground level. And yes, moving towards our topic, that today's topic is from silent to strength. So when you hear these words, so what do they personally mean to you, and why is it time to reimagine gender justice beyond traditional conversations?
Uh, when I hear the word from silence to strength, I don't hear a slogan. I hear millions of untold stories. I, from silence to strength, I think of women who was told to stay silent to protect the family's honor. I think of young girl who had questions about her own body but was taught to whisper about. I again think of survivors who spent years carrying the weight of someone else's wrongdoing because society questioned their character before questioning the crime. So, silence is rarely a choice, and most of the time it is inherited. We teach our daughters without even realizing it. Sometimes, don't speak out too loudly, don't argue. It just what will people say, log kya kahenge. Somewhere along the way silence starts sounding like a virtue, and strength begins the day we stop confusing silence with dignity. For me, strength is not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about finding the courage to ask uncomfortable questions and to challenge the traditions that no longer serves humanity, and to say that this is not right even when you are standing alone. And that's exactly why I believe uh, it's time to reimagine gender justice. Because for decades, we have spoken about gender justice as if it's only a women's issue. We organize discussions on Women's Day, we celebrate successful women, we talk about women empowerment, and while all of that are important, but somewhere we have reduced gender justice to a conversation about women alone. And I think that's where we have gone wrong. Gender justice is not about giving women a seat at the table when the table itself remains unequal. For me, if you ask me, the definition of gender justice in this scenario is completely redesigning the table. It's about questioning everything which makes you uncomfortable, questioning why unpaid care work is still invisible, why leadership is still measured through masculine standard, why boys are raised to suppress emotions while girls are raised to suppress ambition. So if we don't question this system, we are only treating the symptoms, not the disease. Then I'll definitely take the clue from my grassroots work. Working at the grassroots had taught me something very powerful. I have realized that equality does not always look dramatic the way it's been projected. No, it doesn't look dramatic. Sometimes it looks very simple, looks like very normal to us. Sometimes it looks like women eating her meal after everyone else has finished. Sometimes it looks like a talented woman apologizing before sharing her opinion in a meeting. And sometimes it looks like a man carrying the pressure of never being allowed to cry because society told him that vulnerability is weakness. That's why I always say that gender justice is about humanity because before it's about gender. It's about creating a world where no one's dreams, no one's dignity, and opportunities are decided by whether they are born a boy or a girl. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson I have learned. uh, the opposite of silence is not noise. The opposite of silence is voice. And the voice is powerful because it inspired another voice and then another voice until what was once a whisper becomes a movement. So when I hear from silence to strength, I don't imagine one woman becoming stronger. I imagine an entire society becoming more honest, rather.
Yes, rightly said, ma'am. And it's such a powerful perspective, I can say, because I have also seen that men are being told that कि yes, मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता, उनको रोना नहीं चाहिए. So that's wrong thing, I can say, कि they also have right to express their emotions. And कोई रोता भी है तो बोला जाता है कि क्यों रो रहे हो, लड़की हो क्या. So such I have seen कि ऐसे statements जो है सोसाइटी में बोले जाते हैं. But yes, I have that's you have given such a wonderful insights, and many conversations begin with awareness, but real transformation begins when we question the silence that has existed for generations. So you have given us such a wonderful point, and yes, हमें जो है उस पे बहुत काम करना है. And many women I have seen that they continue to suffer in silence because of discrimination, violence, unequal opportunities, and social conditioning. So in your view, what is the biggest form of silence that society still refuses to acknowledge?
Well, I think the biggest mistake society makes is believing that silence means everything is fine. Sab kuch sahi hai. Silence does not mean there is no discrimination. It often means that the cost of speaking is simply too high. That's why people prefer keeping silence. One of the biggest silences we refuse to acknowledge is normalized inequality. When a girl is told to compromise because before she is being told to dream, that is silence. When a woman apologizes before expressing her opinion in a meeting, in a boardroom, that is silence. When a homemaker spends decades before decades building her family, but her work is dismissed as stating that, oh, she doesn't do anything. That's her duty. That is silence. And the uncomfortable truth is that society often um, is more disturbed by a woman who speaks up than by the injustice she is speaking against. So we ask survivors that ab kyun chup rahe, why they stayed silent, but we rarely ask why this system made silence feel safer than speaking. So, to me, gender justice is not just about giving women a voice. Uh, Women, because I honestly believe that women always have had voices. So, the real question is, are we willing to listen when what they say challenges our comfort, our traditions, our rituals, or our privilege? Because silence is not absence of sound, it's the presence of fear. And a society that teaches women to stay silent can never call itself truly progressive.
Yes, and thank you for highlighting this reality, I can say. And I've also seen that recognizing silence is the first step, but changing mindset is where lasting change happens. And yes, and moving
Certainly.
towards the yes, and moving towards the gender stereotypes, and I have seen that that begins such a young age. So how can families, schools, or communities work together to raise generation that believes in equality rather than limitations?
Uh, that's a very good question, and that is something we need to focus on in current scenario. If we
Yes,
really want gender equality, we have to stop treating it as a lesson for adults. It begins in childhood, and the first classroom is not school; it's our home. The biggest thing which I feel by interacting with so many young parents, what is missing today is gender sensitive parenting. Children don't learn equality from what we preach, they learn it from what they see. When a son um, sees his mother doing all the unpaid care work while everyone calls it her duty, he learns inequality before he learns mathematics. Whereas if a son grows up watching his father sharing household responsibilities, he learns respect. Similarly, coming to daughters, if a daughter grows up seeing her opinions valued equally, she learns confidence. And equality, what I believe that equality is caught before it is taught. Then come schools. Once we learn from the home, then we go to school. So schools have equally powerful role. Gender equality should not be limited to a chapter in a textbook or a speech on Women's Day. It should be reflected in classrooms, in sports, in other extracurricular activities, leadership opportunities, even in the language teachers speak to boys and girls, to the children. That should be also gender neutral. Then
correct.
I think uh, community also has a greater role to play over here. Communities must stop rewarding stereotypes. We celebrate girls for being adjusting and boys for being strong. What if we celebrated both for being kind, responsible, and respectful instead? So, the bold truth is, we don't have a girl child problem or a boy child problem. We have an adult mindset problem. And uh, if we continue raising our daughters to be careful and our sons to be entitled, don't expect equality to magically appear in the next generation. So we need to stop assigning that gender based roles and values based on gender. And we need to, I think the plain basic thing is like teach boys to cook, teach them to care and
Yes,
communicate, and teach girls to lead, to negotiate, to take risk in their life. And most importantly, what I feel, um, teach both of them consent, empathy, accountability. The world our children inherit depends on the values we model today. And if we want our future generation to believe in equality, then equality has to be a daily practice, not a one-off kind of activity or not a annual campaign. So we need to do that every day, every moment, in our home, in the school, in the community, in public space, in our society, everyday practice.
yes, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट मैम. एंड जितना हम ज्यादा जो है अपने घर पे एंड सोसाइटी में प्लस कम्युनिटी और स्कूल्स if we'll practice daily, then definitely it will bring a great impact to the society. And जो अभी हम लोग जो बात कर रहे हैं, that will bring more equality in the nation. And yes, when we change the way the children think today, we can change the society they will build tomorrow. And yes,
Right.
uh, going ahead, that you have been a strong advocate for the women's participation in governance and decision making. So why is equal representation not just a women issue, but a necessity for building stronger and more inclusive societies?
Uh, we women are half of the population. When women make up nearly half of the population, but remain underrepresented where decisions are made, we don't have a human problem. We have a governance problem. And I'll tell you an uncomfortable truth: policies designed without women often fail women, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, safety, public safety, sanitation, transport, or the economy. So, diverse voices lead to better decisions because they reflect lived reality. This is why I say equal representation is not about helping women, it's about helping society make better decisions. A no, women on a stage does not automatically mean women have the power. A woman in office does not guarantee women's voices are being heard. Real representation begins when women have the authority to influence policy, not just occupying a chair. And let me reiterate, representation was never meant to be the destination for us, for we women. It was always a doorway. But somehow along the way, we mistook visibility for the victory. Having more women in rooms that is historically closed for them is important. Absolutely, it is important. But the real question is what happens? What happens after they enter? Are they heard? Are they shaping decisions? Or are they simply expected to adapt to system that was never designed for them? So, if we think from just representation to participation in decision making or influencing the policy, the shift is simple: from presence to power, from participation to influence, and from being seen to being valued. For me, that's why I always believe that equal representation is not just about feeling quotas. Some or other quota is there for women, so we need to feel and we need more women on the table. No, it's absolutely not representation. It's about feeling the leadership gap our democracy has ignored for decades. And the day we stop seeing women in power as an exception and start seeing them as the necessity, we won't build a stronger democracy. So, to build a fairer nation, to build a stronger democracy, we need women at the table as well as women influencing policy.
That's really wonderful and important message you have given to us. And yes, I also believe that representation is not about filling seats. It's about ensuring that every voice has the opportunity to shape the future. And yes, and we have seen that women are taking care of their families and still they are being unpaid. Means I can say that the homemakers. So women's unpaid care work often remains invisible despite being the backbone of the families and economies. So what social and policy changes are needed to finally give the contribution to recognition and value that it truly deserves?
I think in recent time and era, the lot of conversation is happening around women's unpaid care work. So one of the biggest ironies of our society is that we call the family the foundation of the society, but we refuse to value the person who holds that foundation together. Women's unpaid care work is often treated as love, duty, sacrifice, but rarely as work. Cooking, cleaning, caregiving, raising children, caring for aging parents, elderly. If these tasks uh, stop stop for just 1 week, our economy would feel the shock. Yet, because there is no
Yes.
salary attached to them, we pretend as if there is no economic value attached to it. So that's not tradition, that's completely invisibility. Socially, also, we need to stop glorifying sacrifice and start normalizing shared responsibility, because household work is not a women's biological responsibility, it's a family's collective responsibility. I strongly advocate that boys should grow up believing that washing dishes and changing diapers are life skills and not favors they do uh, for women. When I absolutely got shocked when they say that I'm helping my wife or I'm taking care of my baby. So these are life skills you need to learn from the very beginning, and you need to change that mindset. Coming to, I think there was another part attached to it, politically, what can be done. Uh, Politically, I think we need policies that recognize care work as a contribution to nation building, whether it's social security, better childcare systems, or gender responsive budgeting. Government must acknowledge that unpaid care work sustains the workforce and the economy. And while discussing all these things, I think let's be very clear that recognition is not about putting a price tag on mother's love. It's about
Yes.
ensuring that uh, women a woman who spends lifetime caring for everyone else is not left economically invisible, at the same time socially undervalued and financially dependent. So, coming from Indian society, we are a society that calls women Devi, but treats their labor as free. So, I think we have misunderstood both respect as well as equality. The day we stop taking women's unpaid care work for granted, we will stop calling it as help and start calling it what it truly is, which is work that builds our families, strengthen our economies, and holds a nation together. I think we will grow as a society.
Yes. That's really wonderful and insightful. And thank you so much for this insight. And yes, we have seen that sometimes the most valuable work is the least visible, and conversation like these help brings that reality into the spotlight. So yes, going ahead to the conversation. So despite progress, menstrual health continues to be surrounded by stigma in many communities. As someone widely recognized for your pioneering work in this space, so what practical steps can help us to move from awareness to dignity and ensure that equal access for every girl and woman in this?
I think we have spent years creating awareness about menstruation. But the real question is what that awareness has changed? Has anything changed in our mindset, in our society, in our surrounding? Years of my work in this space have made me realize a girl does not need another poster telling that periods are natural. She needs a clean toilet in her school. She needs affordable menstrual products. She needs accurate information. And above all, she needs a society that does not make her feel ashamed of her own biology. Through my work with Adiva Shri Vision, I have learned that menstrual dignity is not achieved by distributing sanitary pads or any other product once a year. It comes from building systems that ensure no girl misses school, no women compromises her health, and no one discriminated against um, because she menstruate. So I think we need to stop treating menstrual health as a welfare issue and start treating it as a public health issue, maybe a education issue or a dignity issue or gender justice issue.
Ma'am, we are not able to hear you. Can you hear me?
Affordable, and especially since I'm working in this rural and the tribal pocket, especially for women menstruation a women's conversation. So, fathers, brothers, teachers, employers, and policy makers have a great role to play. Stigma survive because silence survives. We don't discuss with our male counterpart, whether it's our father or anybody in our family. So, I'll tell you one uncomfortable truth over here, that periods have never held girls back. Society's response to period has always that stigma, that
Correct.
silence, that taboo that has held girls back. So
Yes.
the day a girl can walk into a classroom, a workplace, or a public space without shame, without any barriers, without having to hide a sanitary pad in her sleeve, we can finally say we have moved beyond awareness. Until then, our job is unfinished, because menstrual health is not about hygiene alone. It's about dignity, it's about equality, and most important thing, it's about justice as well.
Yes. Beautiful said, ma'am. And yes, I can say that whenever we replace this stigma with knowledge, we don't just improve health, we restore confidence, dignity, and opportunity. एंड यस राइटली सेड कि हम लोग जो अभी भी जो है मेल के साथ बात नहीं कर पाते रिलेटेड टू दी पीरियड्स और मेंस्ट्रुएशन और बॉसेस वी समटाइम्स हेजिटेट कि हाउ वी कैन से एंड वो कहीं ना कहीं हमें सिखाया भी नहीं जाता है बचपन से इट्स लाइक कि नो वन इज टॉकिंग मच अबाउट एट होम ऑल्सो बट यस डेफिनेटली वी आर वर्किंग अहेड एंड वी आर इम्प्रोवाइजिंग at our home or these generations also and yes
Yeah, that can only happen. Sorry to interrupt you. That can only happen if we consider this not as a women's issue but a human issue, as a equality issue. The moment we start changing this narrative, I think we'll be comfortable finding out solutions for this thing. So that's how the change can happen.
yes correct. And yes, I've seen that gender justice cannot be achieved by women alone. So, what role do men, boys, and young leaders play in becoming allies and creating lasting cultural change in this?
I think we have discussed a lot about involving boys and men in so many things. I mean, day to day conversation, sharing responsibility. So, if we think gender justice will never be achieved by women fighting alone, let's be honest. Um, if men created many of the systems that excluded women, then men also have a responsibility to help dismantle them. So you have created this system, you have created these barriers, and now it's your responsibility as well to dismantle them. And when they do this, equality is absolutely not a favor men do for women, it's a responsibility they owe to the society. But I think allyship is more than just posting on social media every Women's Day. Uh, it's about including men in all the conversation. It's not about including men as an afterthought or an aftermath. It's about reshaping the norms, the power, and the participation so that equality becomes everyone's responsibility. Too often, I have seen that men stand at the edges, agreeing, yes, nodding, and even sympathizing. But allyship does not live in agreement, it lives in action, what you are doing, what you are bringing to the table. And the truth is, patriarchy does not just disadvantage women, it also confines men. It teaches them to suppress emotion, to equate dominance with strength, to stay silent when they should speak. So we need to first redefine this definition of masculinity. We must expand what it means to be a man. Strength should include empathy, care, and respect. And we need to normalize men as caregivers, listeners, and collaborators, not just providers in our life or decision makers. It's more about Elisif is more about respecting women's voices in boardrooms, in classrooms, in public life, and most important, in home. Because everything starts from your own home. अपने घर की चार दीवारियों से ही all the change happens. And
Yes.
it's about raising sons who see equality as normal. It is normal, it is not negotiable. Then I think you asked about the younger generation or the younger leaders. They definitely have a bigger responsibility because they have the power to break generational patterns instead of inheriting them. So, what I have seen and experienced is that the biggest barrier to gender justice today is not lack of laws. Because in India, we thankfully have a couple of laws which are supporting gender justice, but it's lack of courage to challenge that everyday sexism. And if we think about real allies, they don't speak for women. They stand with women, especially when equality becomes inconvenient. So that's why our male counterpart, young leaders have a really big role to play in this gender unequal situation.
Yes. And thank you so much for explaining this wonderfully and बहुत ही beautiful तरीके से आपने explain किया इस चीज को. And yes, I also agree that gender justice is not just a women's movement, it's a human movement, I can say. And every individual has a role to play in this. तो जैसे ही हम लोग जो है मिलजुल के करेंगे तो डेफिनेटली वी कैन ब्रिंग जेंडर जस्टिस इन आवर नेशन. एंड जैसे आपकी जो बहुत ही रिमार्केबल जर्नी रह चुकी है, तो ऐसा कोई मोमेंट होगा आपकी लाइफ में कि कभी लगा होगा कि आई शुड गिव अप, कि अभी बस अभी नहीं करना है मुझे, एंड बट फिर कहीं आपको जो एक स्ट्रेंथ आई एंड you thought that no, I should continue fighting about this gender justice and equal society?
Uh, I would be lying if I say that I have never thought of giving up. There were moments when criticism didn't come from strangers. It came from people I loved, people who I genuinely cared for. They couldn't understand why I have chosen this difficult path. I was judged for leaving a stable career, questioned for questioning the stereotypes, and sometimes made to feel that choosing purpose over comfort was a mistake. And actually that hurts more than criticism from the outside world, when you the people near and dear start questioning you, your credibility, and judge you. There were days when I was physically exhausted, emotionally drained, and wondered what next in store for me. Uh, but I always believe ignoring what we feel does not make us stronger. It just makes us quieter within ourselves. So when I feel exhausted or emotionally drained, I return to the small grounding practices, maybe a moment of stillness, deep breath, which has helped me a lot. Deep breath taken consciously, meditation, stepping away from the noise, even if just for a while. But every time I felt like stopping, there are two things that helped me and held me together. The first was my parents. They taught me that character is more important than your comfort. And if your work improves even one life, it has meaning. So that quiet faith in me became my greatest strength when my confidence was shaken. And the second one was, of course, my conviction. I have always believed that if your purpose is bigger than your fear, then keep moving. My work has never been about recognition or applause. It's about the little victory that rarely makes headlines. Uh, a little victory is like a father changing how he raises his daughter, a woman finding ways, um, or rather courage to say enough. So those moments actually reminded me why I have started. But yes, I have cried. I have doubted myself. Lonely feel kiya. I have felt alone, but I have never doubted my cause. So that resilience, that conviction, that has actually helped me.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing this answer honestly. And yes, and I can say that your resilience reminds us that behind every change maker, there is a story of courage, persistence, and hope. So, moving towards the final question. So, as we are coming towards the end of the session, and if every listener could take one action after today's conversation and discussion to help build a gender equal society, so what would you encourage them to do? And finally, what is your vision of a truly gender just world?
Uh, Gender just world. My vision for the gender just world is very simple: a world where a girl's dream are never negotiated, a woman's dignity is never conditional, and a man's humanity is never measured by outdated stereotypes. A world where opportunities are determined by talent, not by gender. So I want everybody watching us, listening us, our listeners to feel little uncomfortable after all this conversation rather than being inspired. Because change begins the moment we stop asking, what should society do? And start asking this uncomfortable question that, what am I normalizing every single day? If each one of us listening challenges just one stereotype today, we have already started changing the culture. Because I believe that equality cannot be achieved by grand speeches. It's built by everyday choices. However small it is, doesn't matter. So I think you have to choose respect over stereotypes, choose courage over silence, choose fairness over convenience. And because these small decisions, what we make at home, shape the biggest changes we see in our society. So we need to start small, we need to question the stereotype, and start asking us the uncomfortable questions as well. So that's what I want to say to all the people watching us today.
Thank you so much, Anushri ma'am. You have given us such a wonderful and insightful session or conversation, I can say, and you have shared us wonderful your experiences, your wisdom, and unwavering commitment to creating a more just and inclusive society, I can say. And today's conversation reminded us that gender justice is not about empowering one gender over another. It's about creating equal opportunities, equal respect, and equal dignity for everyone. So thank you so much, Anushi ma'am, for giving us such a wonderful and insightful session with your precious time. And yes, I would say that real changes begins when we challenge stereotypes, raise our voices against injustice, and choose compassion over prejudice. And to everyone watching us today, so don't let this conversation end here. I would say just start a conversation at home, encourage equality in your workplace, raise children without stereotypes, and support women's leadership. Become an ally, and because lasting change doesn't happen through policies alone, it begins with people like you and me. So if today's conversation has inspired you, please like, comment, and share us and follow Prerna Spreading Inspiration. So together we continue to amplify this story and meaningful impact. So once again, my heartfelt gratitude, Anushri ma'am, for joining us and giving us such a wonderful insights. So let's hope for more and more conversations with you, and let's move together and create a gender justice society.
Thank you, Prerna, for creating this space and allowing these conversations to reach more and more people. You said it right that a gender equal society won't be built by extraordinary people, it will be built by ordinary people like me and you,
Yes.
making extraordinary choices every single day. Thank you for having me. And it was a heartfelt conversation. Once again, thank you for creating this space.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And it's really my honor to host you today. And yes, definitely we'll be looking forward for more sessions with you, more conversations so that we can create a bigger impact to the society. And जितना हम ज़्यादा spread कर सके उतना हम definitely will do. And yes, thank you so much, audience who will be watching our recording. So please share and comment whatever you have learned from this conversation and what step would you be taking from after today's session. So I'm Prerna Vaswani and signing off with one belief that our that has been guided our journey, and one conversation can inspire 1,000 lives. So thank you so much. Keep inspiring and keep learning. Have a nice day.
Thank you.